Welcome to today's lesson. Let's go over today's lesson objective. So today we will identify how organisms interact with both living and non-living things to survive in the environment or in their environment. All right. Now let's go over our lesson success criteria. So our lesson success criteria is, oh man, I did this wrong. So it's just one I can. I can identify how organisms interact with living and non-living things to survive in their environment. Okay. So let's go over what is an environment. So an environment is an area where organisms live. So we're going to get into organisms just a little bit, but basically an environment is anything where living things live, right? So over here we have the forest, and that is our environment. And that can include the atmosphere, the air, the water, rocks, but it's just the area where they live. Okay, now let's go over what is an organism. So our official definition is a single self-contained living thing. So one organism is one living thing. So we have a butterfly, that is a living thing. Plants are also living things. Fungus, like mushrooms, are also living things. So we have all these different things. So that is collectively, they're called an organism. Not collectively, sorry, that umbrella to capture all of that is called an organism. Okay, now what are living things? Living things are, and they're also called biotic things. That is our scientific term for living things. But living things or biotic things are objects that have biological processes that keep them alive, such as plants and animals. So plants and animals are considered biotic, means they're living. They have certain things that keep them alive, right? Now, how is a biotic thing different from an abiotic thing? So an abiotic thing or a non-living thing are parts of the ecosystem that is not living, such as sunlight, air, oxygen, carbon dioxide, water, rocks, and soil. So we have a lot of other examples. Basically, anything that is not living, non-living, is abiotic. Okay. Now, let's go into what is an ecosystem. So, an ecosystem is similar to an environment, but it's an ecosystem is all living and non-living things and their interactions in an area. So, an environment is just the area where they live, but an ecosystem includes the living and non-living things and the interactions between the two. So, what are they doing? Okay. And I think that is all of our vocabulary words. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and get into our lesson. So, our first thing that we need to take into account are ecosystems are communities, meaning that we have so many different things in there, right? So, here's an example of an ecosystem. And in this ecosystem, we're going to see a combination of biotic and abiotic. And I'm actually going to go ahead and write this in a different color. And abiotic, right? So let's start with the abiotic. What is non-living here? We have the water, right? So our water is abiotic. That is non-living, but it is important for our ecosystem. So we have our water. We also have the sunlight. We can see it's daytime right here. So we're getting sunlight from the sun. That's really important for the survival of our ecosystem. The air that these animals are breathing, that's really important for the survival of our ecosystem as well. So remember, the abiotic or non-living is anything that's not alive. Now let's look at the biotic. So what kind of things in this ecosystem are biotic? We have birds over here, right? We have a whole bunch of birds. Those are all living things, right? And they depend on water to survive. They depend on the air to survive, right? So if we were to take that away, that'd be really bad. We also have these plants over here and over here at the bottom too. We have all of these plants. Those are biotic as well. They are living. They are part of this ecosystem that we see. So ecosystems are communities of lots of different things. We may also see some fish in the water. We can't see them in this picture, but maybe there's some fish in there. They're part of that ecosystem as well. They are part of that community, and they are all important. Okay, now that we've kind of gone into that, we have to also remember, I'm going to go ahead and X my face out for this. So, biotic things or living things depend on both biotic and abiotic things. So, they depend on both living and non living things. So, over here, we have an example of a bee on a flower. So, this flower, this plant is alive, it's biotic, and so is the bee. They both depend on each other. The bee needs the flower to get food, right? Because it gets pollen from the food. Now, the flower also depends on the bee because the bee is now going to pollinate the flower, which is going to help the the flower makes seeds, and then also the pollen can go to other flowers as well, which is really important for the survival of the flower. So both the bee and the flower depend on each other. If one of them disappears, the other one is going to have a very difficult time surviving. Now let's look at over here. Over here we have meerkat or like a weasel. I don't know exactly what he is, but I think he's a meerkat. But we see him in the dirt over here. And something about meerkats is that they need dirt to build tunnels. They live underground. And so they need the dirt and the soil to help them build their homes. And if they don't have that soil, they're unable to build their homes. Now, the soil is not alive, right? The soil is abiotic or non-living, and the meerkat is living. It's biotic, but the meerkat depends on the soil to survive. Without the soil, the meerkat would not be able to get a home and would be more at risk of getting eaten by a predator. So, this is all very important. So, remember, biotic things depend on both biotic and abiotic things to survive, right? They need both. Okay. Now, let's go over our lesson objective. So, our lesson objective for today is we identified how organisms interact with both living and non living things to survive in the environment. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I will see y'all next time. Bye, everyone. Have a great day.